Episode 8 of the Last Dance documentary review is coming your way now, and there's a lot to talk about. Don't get me wrong, this is probably the best episode I've seen out of all of them. So buckle up, put your seatbelt on, man, and let's enjoy this ride together. Let's go. What's up, everybody? It's the Sports Code, aka Aiden, and welcome back to another video. This is part 8, episode 8 of the Michael Jordan The Last Dance documentary review. So, without further ado, man, before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Sports Code YouTube channel. Turn notifications on for more Last Dance reviews. Check out the playlist, share the video, and next week, man, we're gonna have episode 9 and 10. Things are slowing down, man, and it's gonna be a tough few weeks to get over not doing a review because these have been really good episodes. And yeah, man, we'll just get started. We'll get right into this. We'll try and not waste any more time. So this started basically from it was from the Hornets versus the Chicago Bulls in the 1998 playoffs, and they were talking about how Michael Jordan was not mentally there, or he wasn't really up to the levels, and he needed something to motivate him to get to those levels. And they talked about the BJ Armstrong. In the second game, I believe, he got more minutes than he usually does. And because of that, he was able to, since he was a former Bulls player, he was able to take advantage of that. And he was able to become, I guess, the kryptonite in a way for that one game to the Chicago Bulls. He knew the game plan, he knew how they operated, he knew how they played, and he took that to the bank, and he ended up getting a game over them, man. And that, in a certain way, that ticked Michael Jordan off more than anything, really, because the celebrations afterwards. I mean, BJ Armstrong, obviously a former Bull, that's going to sting for anybody if a former player, a player that was on your side, ends up going to another team, whether it's by trade or not, and embarrassing you on your home floor. That took something, and it shows with Michael Jordan how he could let any small thing end up being that motivating factor to becoming the greatest, and to show and prove people wrong, to make everybody believe that what these people think are wrong. So when BJ Armstrong got that win over the Chicago Bulls, everybody thought, that's it, man. They're going to win that series, or they have a good chance to win that series. It's not over yet. People calling it a sweep are wrong, and they were wrong because it wasn't a sweep. But Michael Jordan had his way with that entire series after that, and clearly beating the Hornets. I think it was 4-1. They only won that one game. BJ Armstrong had a terrible outing since that game. And it just shows, man, you don't tick off the greatest of all time, even if it's the small things, man. You gotta do everything in your power not to try and tick off the greatest. It just doesn't work. It never works. Once you awaken them, man, you're gonna live to regret it. And it goes all the way back to 1995, and it goes back to Michael Jordan contemplating if he was to I guess come back to the NBA, because there was this big thing in baseball where they were having, I believe it was replacement players over replacement players, and Michael Jordan didn't want that to happen. All of baseball went on strike, and Michael Jordan walked out of baseball, so he was left with nothing to do. And to be honest, to give my 2 cents on that, walking out on your dream is one of the worst things to ever happen. And for many people, they just simply can't seem to walk away. They never can walk away. It's more tougher than people could ever imagine. And in this case, it's probably would have been the same thing, just having nothing to do, man. Just walking away because you know the game isn't treating you right, and the game's changing in front of your eyes, and there's nothing you could do about it. So for Michael Jordan, it's going to be it was very tough, I would say, to decide to come back to basketball, but it took time. So he met up, funnily enough, with BJ Armstrong, and they ended up having a practice, and Michael Jordan kept coming back to the practices. And eventually, man, after the long year of contemplating in 1995, he decided, that's it, I'm coming back. And it was just 2 simple words, I'm back. That's all that needed to be said, and everything from then on would have been would write its own history. The greatest of all time is coming back. Michael Jordan, can he live up to the hype? Can he live up to the pressure? Can he live up to the actual capabilities of being a very good, if not the greatest basketball player at that time? He struggled with it. I can't lie with that. He struggled with that a lot. And at the end of the day, it didn't take very long for him to snap out of it. But the first game against the Pacers, he kind of, he wasn't that good. But he ended up getting 19 points. Then eventually with the Hawks and the Knicks, he showed his dominance and he showed that he was ready to take on a new journey, take on that that mantle again of being the best. And it took a while from then on. Obviously, coming back, it's not just playing those 5 games and then he's still the greatest. It never would work. It never worked like that. And I'm surprised that people would even think it worked like that. Because, of course, NBA is a very, very tough season, man. And as probably the most conditioned you could ever need to be for a sport is basketball. It's definitely up there for one of them. Because 82 games is not a joke, plus playoffs. You're playing every 3 days, every 4 days. You need to be well conditioned to doing stuff like that. It's incredibly difficult to the body. And that's why not a lot of people can do it for that long. And it just went to... It basically went to the playoffs, and the playoffs were a stumbling block, you could say, for Michael Jordan. In reality, you could say it wasn't necessarily all his fault, but it kind of just went straight to Orlando. And at this time, Orlando had Horace Grant on the team, a former Bulls player. They also had a very, very good young team, and of course, they were ready to take that next step to go win that championship, to go and win a championship, bring it back to Orlando, and eventually, of course, because Michael Jordan, when he came back, he wore the number 45. So for anybody, I should have brought that up a little bit earlier, but yeah, he wore the number 45 because 23 was his father's number, really. It was the number he had when his father was around, and he wanted a fresh start. So against Orlando, things were going rather difficult because Michael Jordan wasn't at his greatest. He was tired. He and he just couldn't live up to those levels that he once was, I guess you could say. So there was a time, of course, that Orlando team was stacked at Shaq, Penny Hardaway, Horace Grant, Nick Anderson, and had all these players. But Nick Anderson was the one that was guarding him. And Nick Anderson decided to talk trash. And he said along the lines with, "Are you sure that's for, what are you? Are you 45 or 23? Which is pretty much insulting him because he's basically saying it's a shell of a man that he used to be. He's not the number 23 anymore. He can't live up to those standards as a number 23. Long and behold, the next game, Michael Jordan comes back, number 23 and all, and he smokes the Orlando Magic. However, one game did not do them justice. Michael Jordan destroyed them that game, but again, he just didn't have enough to therefore be to win that championship and to be the next greatest, the comeback story, I guess you could say. It wasn't what it should have been in many ways. Like, everybody expected, Michael Jordan's going to come back and take the Bulls to that championship. They're going to win that championship and they're going to be the greatest comeback story of all time, being a relatively bad team, 500 table team, to go and win that championship. And it just didn't end up being like that, unfortunately for them. And yeah, it resulted in them getting eliminated by the Orlando Magic. So fast forwards to their free agency period, I guess, or the off season, and Michael Jordan was devastated, and he wanted to work his absolute best to get back into NBA shape. Because they mentioned in the previous episode that basketball shape and baseball shape are just not the same. They're different in every way, and Michael Jordan had to get back into basketball shape. But while doing this, he also had Space Jam, which he was recording. And Space Jam, of course, is one of the most iconic basketball movies there ever is. That's why they're making a number 2 of that movie, because Space Jam was so good. Of course, Michael Jordan's in it. If you have someone of that stature, everyone's going to want to watch it, and that's why it was one of the most greatest movies people ever watched. So it ended up being a time where he had to multitask. He had to work, he had to film, he had to train, and he also hired not hired. He brought in a lot of NBA talent, such as Reggie Miller, Dennis Rodman, Patrick Ewing, and all these top talented type of players to come and play in the Space Jam arena, I guess you could say, the Warner Brothers arena, and to try and get his scouting back, to kind of get that ability to beat the best and to scout the best. And it ended up working out very, very well. But before we get into the actual season, which is considered the greatest season of NBA history, we have to talk about the training prior to the season. So obviously, Michael Jordan is furious that he was losing to these teams, to Orlando, to the Indiana Pacers, and to all these teams, and they just thought, that's it. I'm not having this. I'm coming back. I'm coming back to be the best. And he put everybody to the limit. He pushed everybody to their best. And again, it was one of those things where he's trash talking. He's bullying players. He's swearing at players. He's doing all of this. He's being the typical Michael Jordan that we've all come to see him as in this documentary. We've seen him as that player that won't stop at anything to ensure that he could win a championship. And if you weren't on his wavelength, then you're not playing with him. And in doing that, he pushed a lot of buttons. And one of the buttons that he pushed that actually pushed back was Steve Kerr. So obviously, Steve Kerr was guarding Michael Jordan. Steve Kerr was already pissed because his team was losing. And Michael Jordan's just trash talking him, bullying him, and all of this. But Steve Kerr was one of the only ones to actually push back. He actually shoved Michael Jordan and punched him in the chest, to which MJ punched him in the face, which is the iconic Steve Kerr got punched in the face. It was one of the more iconic stories in NBA history, really. And that's how Steve Kerr earned Michael Jordan's respect, for standing up and not wanting to be played like a pawn. That's what Michael Jordan said in the documentary. He wanted to be a big part of this team. He didn't want to just be one of those guys that just comes in, wins, and leaves. He wanted to be known, wanted to be recognized. And to that point, he definitely was. Steve Kerr was a very important player to that team, and I think people forget that. He was very important to that team. And I think without Steve Kerr, obviously they'd still win the championship, in my opinion, but they would not have some of the more iconic moments as a Bull, like those shots that he made, and Michael Jordan able to trust him with the ball. It was incredible. But at the end of the day, that season was everything to Michael Jordan. And going into the season, they were dominant. They were dominant beyond belief. They won everything. They beat everybody. And they ended up becoming the most... the team with the most wins in NBA history at the time, which was 72-10. Obviously, that's not the case now, but the difference is they had to go for the ring now. They all said, they even got hats saying it don't mean anything unless we get the ring. So having the best season in history was only the start of what that season wanted and should have been. And they ended up going against the Magic once again. The 1996 season, man. They wanted the Magic and they got the Magic. And not only did they get the Magic, with Dennis Rodman by their side, and they finally have that team that could go and compete, they swept the Magic. They made the Magic look non-existent, which was surprising. To be honest, I didn't know much about the playoffs in terms of the Bulls and the Magic and all of them. But to think that a team with Shaq, a team with Penny Hardaway, a team with Nick Anderson, a team with Horace Grant got swept, I couldn't believe it. Like, that team looks stacked. That team, you put that team in today's NBA, they win the championship. So it was insane to me. I have to be honest. That was an insane moment when the Bulls swept the Magic just like that out of nothing. So they end up talking about the 1996 finals, which is, of course, one of the more iconic finals that the Bulls ever played. It was against the Seattle Supersonics. It was against Gary Payton. It was against Sean Kemp. One of those teams in Seattle that everybody wishes they would have a basketball team already. Everybody wants them to have a basketball team in today's NBA. And back then, they had incredible fans. But they go down 2-0. Gary Payton basically says, I'm going to go on Michael Jordan. I'm not going to let us lose. They went down 3-0, and Gary Payton said, "I'm not going to let us lose." So, in his mind, he's saying that he's stopping Michael Jordan, and they won 2 games. But in Michael Jordan's eyes, Gary Payton wasn't the issue. It was everything else. It was Father's Day. It was not having his father around. And to comment on that, I can't tell you that answer. Only Michael Jordan and Gary Payton can tell you the answer. He clearly thinks he was stopping Michael Jordan. He clearly thinks that if they did it earlier, that they would have had maybe a better outcome than what they did get. Which, to be honest, 6 games against the Bulls at that time is pretty good outcome, to be honest. And we don't know. I genuinely do not know what would have happened if Gary Payton guarded Michael Jordan from game 1. I can't tell you. And as big of a Michael Jordan fan I am, I don't know the outcome. I would never know the outcome. But I can take a guess at the outcome, and to me, the outcome stays the same. The outcome is that MJ wins the championship, and Gary Payton, one of the most... And I love Gary Payton. He's one of the greatest defenders in point guard history. They call him the glove for a reason. One of the most underrated point guards, underrated players of all time is Gary Payton. And but would have he alone made a difference to that series? I don't know. I don't think he would have. And at the end of the day, we'll never find out. Because in Game 6, when Michael Jordan was on Gary Payton, when Gary Payton was on Michael Jordan collapsed, went off, absolutely destroyed the Seattle Supersonics, and they walked away in Game 6 as the losers, and the Bulls won the championship. And what made this championship probably the most special in Michael Jordan's career was this was done on Father's Day. So if anybody didn't watch the last episode, Michael Jordan's dad was obviously robbed and murdered back in 1993. And in 1996, this was the first finals championship that he won, where his dad was not actually there in person to see it. But Michael Jordan always believed that his spirit was there, and he knew that his spirit was there. And it was probably the most special championships that he ever won. And it showed. Crying because you won a championship, because of all the meaning behind it. He was crying in the locker room. He couldn't let his emotions hang anymore. He had to let it out, and he did. And to me, that was probably the best part of the documentary, man. It's okay to let your emotions ride out, man. It's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make you less of a man. It doesn't make you anything that people already perceive you as. So for me, that was a very, very special moment for him. Very, very special moment for the episode. And just to know the meaning behind what he's doing. And that's why this documentary is special. Because you see everything. You see the meanings, all the interviews. You get a clear understanding of why they're doing this. So it kind of led to one of the more iconic moments in his documentary and in his career. And it moved back to the 1998 playoffs and talking about the Indiana Pacers, Reggie Miller, and the Indiana Pacers, one of them, again, underrated Indiana Pacers team. Were they ready to beat Michael Jordan? We'll find out in the next episode, unless you already know the outcome, which most people do. But again, we're going to see the information. We're going to see the reasons why things happened the way they did. And I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. So that's the end of the episode, man. I want to thank you all for watching. Please like, subscribe if you're new. What did I think of this episode? I thought this was the best episode of the lot, to be honest. I really, really enjoyed this episode more than any of the other ones. And I'm looking forward to winning this 1998 championship, man. It's about time. The last dance is coming to an end very, very soon. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Hopefully you guys were able to watch it. I do recommend watching every single episode, because me talking about it is only just a smear of what you actually get. Because there's a lot that people can forget. There's a lot that people don't even mention that for you could be the most important thing. I recommend that you watch it. Anyway, have a wonderful and safe day. Take care, and peace.